Hi everybody! Meet June! She's just a sleepy little girl. This is her first YouTube video. Oh my goodness, June, welcome to the crew. Welcome to the Arnold sisters channel. She doesn't even realize her big debut is happening. She's just sleeping right through it. This is so crazy. I feel like I still, I remember doing this with Sage and being like, ah, and I remember, I'm pretty sure it was on this couch too, and she was snoozing. I'm gonna cry, don't let me get emotional. That is all the postpartum. That is like the funniest thing about postpartum with me is how emotional I get, and it's all over the place. Sometimes it's like, I'm so sad. Sometimes I'm like, I'm so happy. Like, I'm just a ball of emotions, and rightfully so. Like, that is expected, but it is really funny when you're just like, oh my gosh, here we go. Tears are coming, and I don't even know why, they're just coming. But I'm very excited to do this video. I'm gonna make it like a mixture of birth vlog and also me just talking about my birth story, because to be completely honest, the day that I went into labor, like, I didn't know really that it was gonna be the day. Like, it wasn't like with Sage where my water broke and I was like, oh, this is happening. So I kind of filmed things, but I wasn't filming like this is my birth, like this is like happening. So I don't have a lot of footage, and I also don't have a lot of footage that is sideways. I have footage that is just like regular. So I can't do like a full YouTube video with that footage, but I'm going to use that footage within this and kind of talk you guys through what was going on in those moments. But yeah, it's interesting, like looking back, I remember like being kind of like, I think this is happening today. Like me and Sam that morning, Sam was like, should I go to work? Like, is this happening? Like, it was just a little bit, which I'll get into. My camera is literally flashing that it's gonna die, which is so fun because we just started filming. So I'm gonna go get my other battery and my other camera, set that all up, and we will get into it. Let's do this thing. Here we go. Okay, let's try that again. We got a new camera. The battery has 2 bars, so we're doing pretty good. Okay, so let's do this thing. Let's start from the beginning. So I go to bed. I'm 38 weeks and 4 days pregnant, okay? This whole, like the whole week of 38 weeks, every night I went to bed, I was kind of at that point where I'm like, is my water gonna break in the middle of the night? Because that's what happened with Sage. So I was just kind of like every night kind of feeling like, okay, maybe, but I don't know. Like, I also was like, I didn't want to get my hopes up. So I remember going to bed that night. I actually kind of remember, me and Sam both put Sage to bed that night. Like, we both went up to her room, we both laid in bed with her, we read her story. And I remember, I didn't remember feeling like it's happening tonight, but I remember being like, if it happens tonight, like that was a really fun, it was just a fun night. Like, we had fun putting Sage down. She was in such a silly, funny mood. And I just remember being like, that was like a really fun, like last night with just Sage, if this was the night. So I remember feeling that, but it wasn't like I was like, oh, it's gonna happen. So anyways, go to sleep that night. I remember waking up throughout the night with like real contractions. Oh, sweetie. Oh, so metal. Oh, so stretch. Yeah. I remember that like every hour I would wake up and have like one real contraction, and it woke me up because I was like, oh, that felt intense. But then I'd fall back asleep because they wouldn't keep happening. But it was probably like every hour starting at like 1 a.m. But then I remember waking up at 5 a.m. to a really intense, like real contraction. Woke up and I was like, ooh, that was intense. And then I kind of just laid in bed, but then I couldn't fall back asleep because it kept happening every 10 minutes. It happened every 10 minutes for the first hour. At like 6 a.m. I nudged Sam and I'm like, hey, like I've been having contractions every 10 minutes. They're very real, but I'm like, they're still 10 minutes apart, so let's just wait to see what happens. So we laid in bed a little bit longer, and they continued for the next hour, still just 10 minutes apart. So I'm like, okay, they're still 10 minutes apart, so I don't really like think it's time to go to the hospital yet. So Sam's like, what do I do? He's like, do you think I should go to work? I'm like, maybe just like stay here for another hour and let's see what happens. So we stayed for another hour and they kind of started to slow down. They were like 10 minutes apart, then like 15, then back to 10, then back to 15 for about an hour. So I was just kind of like, I'm not really sure this is it. Like, I feel like if they were real, they would be picking up. And so, well, I knew they were real contractions, but I was like, I don't think we need to like act like it's happening yet because I feel like they would be picking up. So I tell Sam, I'm like, go to work. His work is like 15 minutes away. So I'm like, go to work and just like, sometimes he has to work in further areas of our state. So like sometimes he's 45 minutes away, but he only had to go to his office, which is close. So I'm like, go there, like you're 10 minutes away. It's fine if I need you, like it's not like you're far. So he goes and they start to get further apart. I had to wake up and I had to actually film. I had to film something for my workout program, which is hilarious. I have footage of me here literally filming, but like having real contractions in the middle of filming. So I'll show that for you guys. But yeah, it was crazy. It was just kind of like, I wasn't really sure what to make of it. So around like 9 a.m., they start going to like 20 minutes apart. So they're still happening, but they're like 20 minutes apart. So I'm like, it's probably not like, it's probably gonna slow down and maybe fade, and that was just like a false labor. So they're now like 20, 25 minutes apart. Sage has dance class, it's a Wednesday, and I'm like, should we go? She actually had a swim lesson earlier and I canceled it because at that point my contractions were closer, and I was like, let's just not. But then by the time it was like ready to, like it was almost time to go to dance, they were like 25 minutes apart. So I'm like, I feel like I can go. Like, I don't really feel like they're that, I don't know, whatever. I was just like, I feel like they're gonna simmer down and it's probably gonna just go away. So we get ready to go to dance class. I have a contraction in the car on the way there. Oh my gosh, oh my gosh, oh my gosh. Ow. We get to dance class. I have two while we're there, like one at the start, one towards the end. And it was funny because like my mom was there, Riley was there with me, and they're like, Lindsay, like they were intense. Like I was like buckled over, like couldn't breathe, couldn't talk for like the minute and a half that they lasted. But I'm like, I don't want to like go to the hospital when they're like this and have them send me home. Now, in hindsight, my baby is breech. So June was breech. I knew she was breech. I could feel her head up in my rib cage. Like I knew she was still breech. She had been almost my entire like third trimester. So I could have gone and been like, she's breech, but at the same time, I'm like, if she needs to keep cooking a little bit longer and like, this isn't the time, I don't want to go and like push that. I also called my OB and they're like, until they're like 5 to 9 minutes apart consistently for an hour, you shouldn't come in. And they hadn't been any closer than 10 minutes apart at this point. So I'm like, okay, we're good. We're just gonna wait a little bit longer. So we're at dance, we leave dance. My mom's like, do you want me to take Sage? I'm like, no, not yet. Like, I'll just go home with her and see what happens. So me and Sage come home, we hang out. They start getting a little sporadic at this point. So they were like 20, 25 minutes apart, but then all of a sudden there'd be one that was like 10 minutes apart, then 20 minutes apart, then like 8 minutes apart, then 15 minutes apart. So they're not consistent, but I'm noticing that they're starting to jump around a lot. So I call Sam, I'm like, these are getting, and they were getting really, really intense, like super long, very intense. So I call Sam around 1:30. I'm like, these are starting to like pick up a little bit and be a little bit more random. So just like, are you still close by? He's like, yeah, I'm still only at the office. So I'm like, okay, just like be on call, like be ready. Then all of a sudden around like 1:45, I get my first pair that is 5 minutes apart. And I'm like, okay. And then they just continue to be 5 minutes apart and quickly go, like some were like 4, some were 3 minutes apart for about 30, 40 minutes. I call Sam, I'm like, come home. Like it's happening. Like they're really, really close. Come home. So he races home. Luckily I had the bag packed. I had actually already packed a bag for Sage because we were gonna go drop her off at my mom's house that morning. I'm like, I'm just gonna pack her bag and have her ready. So I was ready to go. Sam comes home, he gets everybody in the car. Well, he gets Sage in the car and we get all of our stuff packed up. I call my mom, I'm like, okay, we're gonna come drop off Sage and we're gonna go to the hospital. Well, you guys, contractions are now 5 minutes apart. We are headed to the hospital. Where's mommy going?
In the hospital.
To the hospital to do what?
Baby,
okay. On the drive over to my mom's house, we were like, oh my gosh, we might need to just have my mom meet me at the hospital. They were starting to be really close, like 3 minutes apart consistently, super, super intense.
He's over there.
Cool, calm, collected.
Cool, ready to go. Eating your snack so you don't pass out.
But we get to my mom's, we drop Sage off, we race to the hospital. We get into the hospital, check in, get sat down and everything. They're really, really consistent at this point. They get me like hooked up to the monitor. We see like, yes, like you are having contractions. That's always my worry. I don't want to get, I like was always worried I'd get there and have them be like, you're not even having contractions. And I didn't want to look like a baby, but they were very much real. And I knew they were, but I always just have that thought. I'm like, oh gosh, that would be so embarrassing. But they get me all hooked up. They check me, I'm dilated to a 4, which is crazy because like not even 2 days before I was still at a 1 at the doctor's. Like I went to my OB and he checked me, it was only at a 1. So like 2 days later, well, I'm pretty sure they all happened in that day. Like from the second I started having contractions in the middle of the night until we got to the hospital, like I got all the way up to a 4. So it's real, it's happening. Dilated to a 4. Contractions are happening every like 2 to 3 minutes. So they're calling my doctor right now. So dilated to a 4, contractions are happening now like 1 to 2 minutes apart. They do confirm, like they did an ultrasound to confirm that June was breech, but I knew, I mean, like I said, I could feel her head up here, but they confirmed, so they called my doctor and kind of just tell him what's going on, and literally like within minutes of calling him, they're like, they come back in the room and they're like, yep, he's like, we're doing the C-section today. I was 38 weeks and 5 days pregnant. I actually had my scheduled C-section like 2 days later at my 39-week date, but my doctor's like, obviously you're in labor, so we're doing this thing. And they didn't want obviously me to progress any further because she was breech. So my doctor says that, he's like, I'll be at the hospital soon. So we start getting ready. Sam gets all geared up.
Suit up, Dad.
Sam gets his suit on, his C-section suit on, and they actually do a spinal block for a C-section. So they don't do an epidural. It's actually just, it's one shot that they do. Well, they give you a couple shots to like numb the area, and then they give you the spinal block shot, and it's just in like the center, like center-ish of your spine, but they actually do it in the OR. So I put my gown on, put my little hat thing on, we walk over to the OR. And I get up on the table, and that's where they do the spinal block. Sam wasn't in the room with me for the spinal block, which was kind of sad. I don't know why. They had him in there with me with Sage, but maybe because Sage was kind of panicked, like a little bit faster because my water had already broken. But they had Sam wait outside while they did that, and I was like, I was a little bit nervous, but it actually didn't hurt at all. I couldn't remember what the spinal block felt like with Sage. Like I literally couldn't remember. People asked me like, did it hurt? And I'm like, I don't remember at all. I think just because of all the adrenaline, like I didn't even remember it happening. So going into this one, I was a little bit like, oh, is it gonna hurt? Like I don't even remember. And truthfully, it's not that bad. Like, I mean, it didn't feel good, but like it also didn't feel any worse than the contractions I was having. So I feel like that pain kind of like distracted me from the spinal block pain. I don't know. I was just in pain. So it didn't like really add or take away. It just was kind of like, yeah, we're just in pain and that's just what we're doing until we get this cute little girl out. Okay, so I'm in the OR. I get my spinal block. It kicks in pretty quick. Like within like 5 to 10 minutes, my toes are tingly and I'm starting to get numb and like it kicks in really quick. Sam comes in and we lay down, or I get laid down, not me and Sam. Sam does not lay down, but I get laid down on the table and it's like, it's pretty intense at this point. Sorry, one sec. Okay, I needed a snack because I was feeling a little lightheaded. So don't mind me just munching. But, okay, where was I? Okay, so spinal block is fully kicked in. I'm laid down on the table. They put the curtain up. This time was kind of cool because I didn't do this with Sage, but partially because I didn't know if I wanted to see and wanted to watch. I didn't know if it would make me like nauseous or dizzy or pass out or faint or anything, because I've heard a lot of things about that with C-sections. Like it can make you really squeamish to watch your own stomach be cut into. But after having it with Sage and like having Sam kind of explain to me how everything looked, I felt a little bit more confident this time that I could watch. I didn't want to watch the whole procedure. I just said to him, like, is there any way that I can like watch when she's being taken out? Like when you actually get to the part where you're pulling her out of my stomach. And they said, yes, we can take off the main drape and have it just be a plastic curtain that's like see-through. So I told him that's what I wanted to do, which was pretty cool. So to start out the procedure when they're doing all the like first things, I'm like, I don't really need to see that. They had a drape up, so I couldn't see anything, but I felt very calm. Sam was also, like, Sam the first time around, I think it was really shocking for him. It was kind of like something that happened crazy. My water broke in the middle of the night, so it was like, we were all just like very in shock. And he did so good the first time around, but there were some moments where I could tell he was getting a little bit lightheaded. I could see him getting a little pale in the face. But this time he like took it like a champ. He's like, I've seen this before, I got this. So like the beginning and all that stuff didn't make him squeamish, and he was good. He was talking to me the whole time, like talking me through it, telling me what was going on. So I felt just like totally calm and like totally just at ease. And then it gets to the part where they are like, okay, we're gonna pull the curtain down because we're about to start pulling her out. So obviously at this point, like she's breech, so she comes out booty first, which is exactly how Sage came out. So they get her legs out, they get her little bum out, they get her whole entire body out. And then that's when things started getting a little bit crazy. That's where they noticed and could see cord. You could see cord around her neck. So they go, I remember hearing the doctor say, and now the plastic, I could see through the plastic curtain, but it wasn't like perfect vision. Like it's a little bit blurry. So I could tell that her body was out, but I couldn't see all the fine details, like what Sam could see and the doctors could see, obviously. Sam could see over the drape, but I hear the doctor saying, oh, that explains it. That's why she was breech. Like they could tell because the cord. So that's why she was breech. But at this point, they're not super stressed about it. They can see the cord. I don't think at this point it's like tight and like wrapped. It's just like there. And they're also like, okay, we'll have her out in 2 seconds, so it's okay. So I hear them acknowledging like, oh, that's the cord, like that's why she was breech, that explains it. Another nurse, I remember saying, this was a really good day to go into labor, and I'm kind of just like, what? And then I say, is a cord? And they're like, the cord is around her neck. Sam kind of tells me that, but then I could tell that he was very stressed, and I could sense that the energy in the room started changing a little bit. I couldn't really see super clearly what was going on, but Sam actually got a video of the entire thing, which I'm not gonna share because it's definitely it's pretty gruesome and pretty crazy and scary. But I watched the video back so I could kind of understand exactly what was going on. Essentially, you could see the cord at first when they first started getting to her neck, but then quickly you could see that it was wrapped around multiple times. And it actually was basically filling up the entire like width of her neck to her chin. So there wasn't really anywhere on their neck that was like a different width than her chin, if that makes sense. So when they were trying to pull to get leverage to get her head out, there was not really anywhere that they could grab because the cord had wrapped around so many times that it was really, really hard to get any leverage on her head to pull her out. So this is where it got a bit like, I mean, I don't want to say panicky because the doctors were so calm through it all, but the energy changed. The energy shifted from like, okay, we've got to get this baby out right now. Because as they're pulling, and it's crazy to think about it because the reason she was breech and sitting up so high is because that's where the cords were the loosest. And if she had tried to flip, if I had tried to manually flip her or done any of those external like version things that people suggest to do, the cord would have like compressed so much around her neck and it would have been really, really very, very bad. So such a blessing that she stayed breech because I think that was the only position where the cords were loose enough that she was still okay. But as they started to pull her out, the cords compressed because it changed the position. So the cords are more compressed around her neck and they were having a really hard time getting her head out. The doctors were so calm. They did an incredible job. They did everything they could to do and kept her so safe because eventually they were able to get her out. And that's where we literally, like, I have a video and Sam, I remember seeing his face watching it. They unraveled this cord, counting how many times it was around her neck. It was wrapped around 6 times, which come to find out later, like after talking with my doctor, he said he's never seen that. Like it was a hospital record. All the doctors in the room said they'd never seen it. The nurses were all like, we've never seen this ever. It was a lot of times for it to be wrapped around her sweet neck. It's so crazy in the moment, like, because I didn't fully get all of the details of everything that was going on, I didn't grasp how intense it was. And I feel like it wasn't until like even later that night that it really hit me, like how intense and scary that moment was. But they get her out, and then that's when it got scary because I'm of course asking, like they say, okay, she's out. They tell me, they get the cord off, and that's where I'm like, is she okay? And Sam's not responding to me. The doctors aren't saying anything yet because they're still like, we need to figure out if she's okay. So they immediately take her over to like the table where I mean, I couldn't see everything, but just getting her to breathe, getting everything out of her lungs, getting her to come to and be alert. She wasn't at the beginning. And it took a couple minutes, and it was the scariest minutes of our lives. And I was mostly terrified because, like I said, like I didn't see everything in detail, but Sam had. And seeing his face, oh, it makes me want to cry. Like I can't even say it, but just watching his face and knowing like he was very nervous, but he was trying to stay so calm for me. But like, I think that was what helped me kind of like recognize like, okay, this is intense. Like this is intense. And luckily though, what felt like literally it was probably, I think it was maybe like 3.5 minutes, 4 minutes. But you could hear her start to cry and start to breathe and start to like choke up all the stuff and coughing and everything. And we were just so relieved because that was so stressful. And yeah, I think we were all just in a little bit of shock. But she was okay, and they brought her over to me and I got to hold her, and luckily like there was no complications with like oxygen deprivation or anything. Like she was okay.
Hi, sweetie.
It was just a really, really scary couple of minutes of just like, oh my gosh, like is everything gonna be okay with our baby? And thankfully it is, and she's such a freaking fighter. Like, cannot believe it. Such a tiny little girl. She's only 5 pounds 7 ounces, which is crazy because Sage came at like the same time. So Sage came early too, but she was 7 pounds and 10 ounces. So it was so shocking, but our doctor explained that it's likely due to the fact that the cord was wrapped around her neck so many times, and probably for a majority of that 3rd trimester, just because that's why she had been breached for so long. And he says because they were tightly wrapped and it was a little bit like harder for obviously those nutrients to get to her, that's probably why she's a little bit smaller. But she's healthy, she's good, she's literally been so great. She's gaining weight super well. Like babies, so they're born at their birth weight, and then usually they lose a lot of it, and they really just want them to be back to their birth weight at 2 weeks old. And we just took her to her pediatrician. She's not even a week old, and she's already back to her birth weight and plus an ounce. She's 5 pounds 8 ounces now, our big girl. But she's doing so good, and like it was just the craziest, most surreal thing, and just like we're so grateful that everything is okay. Yeah, and after everything, like everything was good, she's been great. She immediately latched. She has been such a good baby. No complications. She did have a little bit of jaundice in the hospital, so we had to do lights for a day, but she's doing so good now. Her levels are all normal. So yeah, it was the craziest, best day of our lives. I mean, of course, Sage's birth too. Like, I don't think, if I could relive any day, I would want to relive both of the births because they're just, the day, like, that day is just so special. It's the most surreal, insane thing that you have this human that you grew inside of you, and then all of a sudden they're with you and you can hold them and see them. It's just the best thing that could ever happen. So yeah, after the birth, they took us back to, well, it was so great because they brought her over and I got to cuddle her while they finished stitching me up and finished the surgery. And then Sam got to take her back to our room, and we got into the room and I immediately started breastfeeding and just had like literally the best night with her. Like, it was just so awesome to just hold her, be with her. We did it.
So I'll do like a dream feed.
He doesn't need it. He's doing so good.
We'll do a dream feed at like 11:30,
And then he sleeps. Well, that's good.
yeah.
Oh. Sage actually got to come in like not even an hour after she was born. Sam went and picked her up, brought her back to the hospital. We had some time with her alone in the room with just us, our little family, and it was the best thing ever. I have the video of Sage meeting her for the first time, and it's the cutest thing ever, so I'll play that now. But
You want to see her?
oh.
Oh my
Are you in there, baby sister? Oh, he's yawning.
But yeah, so that's my birth story. Like I said, I don't really have like a full vlog, but I hope these clips were helpful. It was the best day ever, and we are so grateful that she's healthy, she's here, that everything turned out okay, and we just love her so freaking much. It feels like she's always been with us. Like, I can't believe that there was a time where we didn't have June in our family. We love her so much, and yeah, so there's that. I definitely will probably talk more and do more things. A lot of you guys have asked a lot about like how we picked her name, which I'll do a video about that, but honestly, not that complicated, but I feel like there's just so much more I want to share. But that's all I'm gonna do for today. I'm gonna go feed baby June, wake her up and make her eat some food. And yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching, and thanks for all the love and support. We appreciate it so much, and we're just so excited to have her here. So here's to lots more videos of baby June. Can you say bye to everybody? Say bye.